Hi, everybody. Chip Towers back to bring you another edition of Towers Take, brought to you by Dog Nation, live on your Dog Nation Facebook page. It's 6 o'clock on Thursday. That means it's time to talk a little bit of Georgia athletics. I am here for you. This is mainly your forum. So we want to hear from you guys and see what you're thinking about things at the moment. Let's see. I'm waiting to see. Yeah, there's a few of you out there so far, and I always want to see. Come on. So the first person I can barely, Louise Moctezuma. Moctezuma was the first one here. He beat you, Hal Love. Chandler Keenan. Let's see. How do I get that off there? Let's see. Anyway, there we go. Okay, I can see you all now. Yeah, that took a long time. Jamal Doty already with the Mark Fox question. Jukabia Barlow. Is that you've told me this before, but can I just call you Juke? 6 o'clock, time for Chip Towers to rock. Yeah, there's some people that would argue on that. Excuse me, it's actually hot in here today. We're in that pier. I mean, can you believe? Welcome to this beautiful summer day in February. An absolutely gorgeous warm day. So we're in between heat and my air conditioning's not on, so I'm burning up. I got an upstairs office. So a delicious Coca-Cola. And if you're like me and you're from Atlanta and you go to a restaurant and somebody and you order a Coke and they say, will Pepsi be okay? I generally say, no, it won't. Thank you. Give me some iced tea instead. But yeah, welcome back, y'all. Yeah, there's a lot of chatter on here already, which is interesting because we usually don't get a ton of basketball chatter on here about Mark Fox. Really disappointing loss last night in Columbia. I mean, I don't think it's surprising that they lost in Columbia. A lot of teams do. In fact, most teams do lose. And excuse me, I'm multitasking here in this social media digital world we live in. But yeah, it was kind of, for me, it was the way they went down. I mean, they're down 15 at the half. And yes, granted, they fought to get back in the game late. But boy, I was really perplexed by that last 90 seconds or 2 minutes. I mean, Georgia just kind of tossed it away. I thought the way they lost that game really didn't try to, hack and jack. The final score was 66-57. But it was within 6, I think it was. Maybe it was 60 seconds. Seth Emerson was there to cover it. You can read his coverage here at Dog Nation. He did a good job, as he always does. And, they just didn't do anything. I thought they were weak on perimeter defense. As usually is the case. They had 17 turnovers. And the bottom line, it dropped them to 15-12 overall, back to 3 under 500 in SEC play. Essentially, you got to win the last 3 games to finish 500 in the league going into the SEC tournament. And anything can happen there. The tournament this year in St. Louis, Missouri, which is interesting. I love St. Louis. I'm not going. We'll have plenty of representation in the SEC country. I do believe Seth is going, if I'm not mistaken. But LSU, Texas A&M, and at Tennessee. LSU this Saturday at 2 o'clock in the Stadium Coliseum is the 4th consecutive Saturday sellout for Georgia. So they're doing that part right. Fans are coming out and trying to support. How about let's see if we can get a little reaction here for Sony Michel today. It's been a big day for Sony Michel, big week. He sent a letter to the Georgia people, essentially an open letter via the Players Tribune, thePlayersTribune.com, which it's a website. I actually read up a little bit about it today. It's founded by Derek Jeter. May have heard of him, former Yankee, kind of to give players a forum to speak. There's Hannah putting up a good shot of a few good shots of Sony Michel. But we have some good shots. I tell you, you should see the photo archives of Sony Michel. He not only was he exciting to watch live in person, but he makes for a pretty good stop action image. You know, the dude is strong and he's fast, and his star seems to be rising as far as the NFL draft. Hearing some NFL chatter about him. Who was it? Maycock. I saw his latest breakdown on the draft. Do I have it right here on my desk? Apologies for the messiness in my office, but hey, man, this is unfiltered. We come straight to you. And but anyway, he had. I was trying to remember which. I mean, everybody has the kid from Saquon Barkley from Penn State as the top-rated back, but he had Sony 4 and Nick 5 rated among his running backs. And I've seen them much higher than that. But not only is it just, Sony Michel's tremendous, athleticism and what he can bring on the field for the NFL, but as he's proving in his brief stint here as a professional athlete, he's pretty savvy as far as public relations, a very well-penned letter he wrote to the Georgia people. There's I.J. Rosenberg. Hello, I.J. They need to go hire Ron Hunter from Georgia State, he's saying, of Georgia basketball. Not meaning to bounce all over the place here, but a lot of different comments coming in here. Melinda Moe talks about how she read the letter and how it was so emotional and heartfelt. I actually just not too long ago posted a Towers Take, my column, my take on Sony Michel. I spoke with his player rep today, Jake Silver of CAA. He's with what are they, Creative Artists Associated with CAA. It's a very elite agency. Isaiah Wynn and Roquan Smith are also with it. But I spoke to Jake Silver. He's going to get. I'm supposed to speak to Sony sometime here pretty soon. Those guys. It's really hard to get these guys as they get ready for the combine, and we're closing in on the combine. It's the end of this month in Indianapolis, and they're really working out hard. They want to make their best show in there. So basically, they are busting it all day long. But Jake Silver's supposed to get Sony back in touch with me, so I'll follow up with some more stuff on him. He, of course, talked to Brandon Adams yesterday for the Dog Nation Daily podcast. Go back and listen to that if you would. I think it's about the 15-minute mark. And then, of course, he's going to be part of the Dog Nation Appreciation Day, March 15th at the Roxy in Battery Park, the Coca-Cola Roxy. Cheers. I really am thirsty and need the caffeine. Thank you. That's not a promotional prop. But anyway, so Sony is playing all those cards right, and I hope to hear more from Sony. Back to basketball, because that's where I've got a lot of comments here, and so let's just dive in. I like Mark Fox. I think Mark Fox is a good basketball coach. I think he's I think he's an excellent college coach and leader of men. That said, it's a results-oriented business. He gets paid $2 million a year. His charge was to lift Georgia basketball to another level, and they haven't gotten there. 2 NCAA bids in 9 years. Maybe they'll make it this year. I mean, maybe they'll be a great run. I don't know if any of you guys remember 2008. Dennis Felton was all but gone as Georgia's head coach, and then Georgia goes in the SEC tournament. A tornado hits, they win it. He's retained for another year, yeah, there's Deontay Maton, and it's just crazy this year. Unfortunate for that kid because he's such a good kid and such a good representative of the university, leading the SEC in scoring, second or tied for first in rebounding. Yet Georgia's the lowest scoring offensive team in the league. And Mark Fox always talks about how, it's a defensive problem and all that kind of stuff. And certainly the perimeter defense leaves a whole lot to be desired, which basically comes down to athleticism and really smarts. But they got to put the ball in the basket more. That's just all there is to it. Georgia just simply has not scored enough this season, and ultimately, it's not over. It's not going to be over. You're not going to get any statements out of Mark Fox. Out of Greg McGarity. I've spoken with him. Many other writers have talked to him. Try to get him engaged on the subject. He's not going to talk about anything till the entire season is over, and that's because anything can happen. And they certainly can do a lot in these next 3 games. They will be at home against LSU this weekend. LSU's good. That'll be a 50-50 game. Texas A&M is good. That'll be a 50-50 game on February 28th, and then I got to go on the road at Tennessee, who they just beat here in Athens. That's my schedule up there on the wall. They got to go up there and beat and play Tennessee and Knoxville in the season finale, and that's going to be a tough challenge. Though, as we've seen from Georgia, beating Florida on the road, I think they can beat anybody, and obviously I think they can lose to anybody. Thank you, Mitch McCarty. There's my old friend from Redan High School back in the Snapfinger area days. If anybody knows that place, Mitch is a great guy. Still comes on here. How have I not answered a Hal Love question 12 minutes into this here? Hal Love says he does not ask a question. He makes a statement. I'm glad we don't get one-and-done players. Yeah, if you've been reading Yahoo and my good friend, I wouldn't say good friend, my acquaintance, Pat Forty, I have a great deal of respect for Pat. Knew him since he was a newspaper guy. It doesn't bode well for teams who have been in the business of the one and dones in the shoe business. And Mark Bradley, by the way, AJC's Mark Bradley wrote a great piece on really the desperate situation that is befalling college basketball right now. The game has really got hurt. And here's something we can talk about a minute. And keep your questions here. I got one eye on it here, and I'm going to see it. Sweaterman is here, Jesse Lee Kinney. And he won't criticize Mark Fox or anybody else. He's just for the dogs no matter what. But talking about that, what's befallen college basketball, it's just the one and done has been the scourge of college basketball and has hurt the game profoundly. And it's ridiculous. And it's not the NCAA's fault, it's the NBA's rule, the one and done deal, but they are killing college basketball. And there's about to be, it sounds like a really, really major change coming as a result of these one and dones in their shoe agreements. And here's the point I'm trying to make. Yes, there is a point. I'm comparing it to college football, which does not have the one and done. Football, as we all know, has a 3-year model that you can turn pro after your junior year, such as Roquan Smith is doing this year. But once you commit to college, you stay in college. All I've heard since Georgia's 2017 season has ended is the connection between the Georgia fans and the players. There's a real connection there, not just between, we were talking about Sony Michel earlier, between fans and Sony Michel, but Sony Michel and the fans, they know each other. They know their story. They know what they've been through. They know what they've done. That doesn't happen in 4.5 months on campus for a one and done basketball player. It's ridiculous. And this is the way, they're not even bashful about it, that Kentucky and Duke and everybody else is operating. Duke, is supposed to be the highest bastion of academia. And, and they routinely take players to have them come to college for 4 months and then turn pro. Same thing with Kentucky. I just think it's sad. And I doubt if the NBA or any rules can mandate it, but I mean they need at least the baseball model, if not the college football model, to save college basketball. Otherwise, it's going to be, because I mean I'm not even as interested in it as I used to be, because the rich just get richer in the system. I mean Kentucky signs 5 one and dones every year, and looks like some of these may stay around a little while, but I don't know. I just think it's so bad for the health of the game, and Mark Bradley does a really good job of communicating that, which you can read on, I think, myajc.com. And I'll get in on it. Jim Laverne says, move on from Fox. Oh, I thought he was telling me to move on from Fox. No, he's telling Georgia to move on from Fox. Jeff Pierce, this is great. I like it. Oh, he says he's serious. You're not, Jeff. Come on. Rick Pitino is available. Are you kidding me? No, the name everybody talks about is Tom Crean generally. That's the thing. That's the problem. Everybody's so eager to make a change, but it's not that easy to find somebody. Certainly not an automatic. I mean, generally what you do if you're University of Georgia, you go to find somebody who's had great success as a mid-major, or you find an assistant from a major program, one of the two. Generally, and it's always worked, to go back to proven guys, like Eddie Fogler and Tom Crean. I certainly could do a job. There's a Thad Matta that was at Ohio State, has connections to Georgia. I don't know what his status is. I'm just throwing it out there. I really haven't delved into it that deeply, to be honest with you. Because everything's so speculative, that I just, I know how everybody feels, and heck, Mark Fox knows how everybody feels too. So, and let me say this: good man, great person, good family, does everything right. Looks like Georgia's going to avoid this entire mess that everybody else is. But I've also seen some chatter about, would they give me Hubie Brown? IJ Rosenberg brings up. Yeah, how about that? Let's bring him back. But the bottom line is you got to win. And, I've seen the argument for, Mark Fox having been, having run such a clean program. Maybe you can't do that right now. But I don't think the changes are going to be so sweeping around the country that there's going to be no reason. Here's Jesse Lee Kinney, and this is Sweater Man, who does the jumping jacks during the game, very close to the program, longtime follower, says, I urge basketball fans to wait till we see what the FBI probe unveils. There could and probably will be a lot of coaches out of a job. I guarantee you it won't be Mark Fox. Let's just see how that plays out, he says. Yeah, Jeff Pierce still on the Pitino wagon. Yeah, get Billy Donovan back in the SEC. Yeah, that wouldn't be, that wouldn't be expensive or anything. Yeah, Billy Cloud brings up baseball. Baseball season has begun. Obviously a big year for Coach Scott Strickland. Again, along the lines of Mark Fox, couldn't be a better man, a great family man, a good teacher of baseball. I just, my son playing Little League Baseball in Coney County, and me being a coach, he comes out there and gives a seminar, gives a clinic to us coaches every year. I mean, and I've watched him work at practice. I'm telling you, one of my best friends, from college is Jim Callis, who worked for Baseball America forever and is with MLB.com, knows baseball good as ever. He was telling me when Scott Strickland came here, said that was a home run hire. That guy knows baseball, and sometimes, it's taken a while. But I'll say this about Scott Strickland and Greg McGarity in particular. Greg McGarity's been very patient on this. There was a timeline that Scott Strickland gave him at the beginning that really didn't, ask for much in the way of expectation until this year. because baseball is such an early recruiting cycle. So, I don't know whether that's justifiable or not, but that's, kind of the time clock that I think Greg McGarity is going by. And, we'll see what happens on that. Off to a good start. I think they're 4-1, maybe, or 3-1 after beating Kennesaw State. Pretty good last night. And they've got another series this weekend, and then they go up into South Carolina for a real interesting road trip up that way, playing some of the Charleston teams and Citadel and those types, which will be a good trip. But that man right there, has got a lot of decisions to make going forward. He's that one right there with Kirby Smart has gone well for him. But, a lot of his other hires have not gone that great. Been through a couple of volleyball and softball coaches and made a change in women's golf. And some of Georgia's traditional powers have sort of fallen back a little bit. So, but he'll make the call on Mark Fox, and he won't make it. I'm assured before, all the games are in. And how many more of that, we can't be sure. They've got 3 more regular season games in the SEC tournament to go. And basically you got to get it done then. If there's going to be any postseason, I don't think the NIT is going to get anybody excited. And we'll just see how patient Georgia and Greg McGarity are, because, as I've stated, Mark Fox does everything right. And there is a lot more to college coaching than just wins and losses on every sport. They do matter. But when men's basketball in particular is a revenue sport, and you get paid a lot of money. A lot of money's coming in from the networks. You got to come through, and that's left a little bit to be desired. I'm shocked. Utterly shocked. I've got no Ben Cleveland questions 22 minutes into this podcast. I.J. Rosenberg pointing out his track move was a good one. Boy, Petros Kiprianou has been fantastic. I think there's 2 and 3 right now, men and women respectively. And they have been on an upward arc ever since he took over that program. Really impressive getting the sprints going, which is where Georgia had kind of fallen back a little bit. Their throws are really strong, and they're doing a good job. Tony Porter tells us that they're still shaky in pitching. One of his best friend's sons is a starting center fielder. Is that one of the Tucker? They got 2 guys named Tucker starting in the outfield. I apologize. I'm not completely brushed up on my Georgia baseball. I know they got the Cam Shepard is a fantastic player and somebody on which Georgia is depending a lot. And I know their pitching is considered a little light, and that's where you get concerned for these long trips and midweek games early in the season. Hello, Nick Lurch. I see Grant Gase says bring back Tubby Smith. Hey, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I mean, I know he's much older now, but Tubby can coach. He knows what he's doing. Hal Love says, Big Ben Cleveland going to be even better next season? Okay. Yes. Ben Cleveland is going to be much better next season. I found my Ben Cleveland bell. In fact, I found all my bells. As some of you know that come on here, I've been in the course of moving for a while. Well, I mean, I just moved, and then you have everything in boxes for months, right? I've got most of them out, but I found the one with my bells in it. And this one actually specifically is the Ben Cleveland bell right there. It says cheers on it. And it says happy days. It's a really old bell, actually. That's a Ben Cleveland bell. And all kidding aside, Tucker Maxwell, Tony Porter says, is the outfielder. All kidding aside, Hal, I think Ben Cleveland's going to be much better next season. I mean, it takes a while on the O-line. What'll be interesting to see is if he remains at right guard or if he moves out to right tackle, where a lot of people expect Isaiah Wilson to get inserted. Most everybody seems to expect Andrew Thomas to move from right tackle to left tackle. I suppose that'll be the case, but there'll be a lot of great competition and a lot of very good candidates to play on the offensive line this year. As Mike Mizell points out, the whole team will be much better. I don't know about that 100%. You're losing so much. We were talking at the top of the broadcast about Sony Michel, and he's just one of just numerous seniors and leaders and lettermen that are going to be gone off that team. And it's just not that easy to replace. I've written on Dog Nation, a tower stake I've done is I think linebacker is a big concern for Georgia. And I had a lot of people who came right back and said, that's not a concern. We've recruited great at that position. But, you know, I try to remind one guy in the comments section, you know, Roquan Smith is leaving as a Butkus Award winner, but remember, he barely played as a freshman. Now, that was because he was playing behind Marlo Herrera and Rameek Wilson. But, you know, I mean, and he wasn't as good as a sophomore as he was as a junior. I mean, it takes time. You just don't come in as a freshman, especially at that position, and all of a sudden you're All-America. I mean, maybe that'll happen, but you know, and Georgia has some veterans there, you know, in Tay Crowder, and you know, we'll see how the Natrez Patrick situation works out. He's going to play at some point next season, but we'll have to wait and see how Kirby handles all that. But that's just not a given. And as James Crump is talking about here. No, who was talking about that? I'm sorry, James, no disrespect. No, it was Mizell again, was talking about leadership. That's a big part of the linebacker position. So you're losing Roquan and Reggie Carter, and you're losing Lorenzo Carter and Davin Bellamy. That's a lot of leadership at one position, and it's not easy to replace. Chip needs to get him a blind squirrel to add to the show. Well, what exactly does that mean, Danny Smith? Yeah, I will. I'll get us a blind squirrel to put right back here, and he'll be our new mascot for the show. Let's see. Why don't you show us your chops, Danny? And give us a good question, and I'll do my best to answer it for you. Mark Andrews says that brick wall will make Holyfield and Swift look good. I don't know exactly what that means, but I do think Holyfield and Swift. I do think now, as much as there's been talk about James Cook and certainly Zamir White, and listen, make no mistake about it, I do believe that Zeus, Zamir White, might be the best of everybody they have there once he gets healthy and can play, commit himself to the position and learning the position. But that's not going to be right away. I don't know that much about James Cook other than his recruiting pedigree and his family ties and all that kind of stuff. And obviously DeAndre Swift can play. The thing about DeAndre Swift is, is he a between the tackles guy the way that Chubb and Michelle were? Holyfield is, I think. I expect some big things out of Elijah Holyfield. I really do. I've been impressed with that young man. Seems like he has his head on straight. Seems like he's working hard. Anybody who's seen him in person knows that he's quite a physical specimen. We've only got about an hour here. About 1 minute, here. So if you're going to get your questions in, get them in quick. Yeah, hello, Chad. How are you? Yeah, for some reason, I don't see a lot of these comments, but I sure do see Blind Squirrel, don't I? James Crumbles know who the true freshman will come in and start and get a lot of playing time, like Thomas and Swift did. They're going to have to get contributions. I would think particularly in the defensive backfield. I would think certainly there's a chance for Tommy Bush at wide receiver. I think Otis Reese and a lot of these defensive backs that they sign are going to have a big chance. Nadab, Joseph, those others, though, the guys that got here last year and that we haven't heard that much about are the ones you can generally expect a lot from there. Yes, Cook did well at the All-America game. Yes, Sawyer, we'll see about Jamari Sawyer. That would be very impressive if he can come in and start. It falls in the same category, though, that there are capable guys already here. If he beats him out, he will. It means he's a good one, and by all accounts, he is, especially coming out of that PACE program. No, Greg, we're not doing that anymore. Greg Prolago with a question there. Yeah, Ty Campbell, Billy Cloud mentions this is probably another good one. So actually, we've run out of time here. Listen, I'll go back in and go behind and answer any questions that you have in the comments section here on our Dog Nation Facebook page. Be sure to like that page and follow it. Get a lot of updates there all the time, just as you do on your Dog Nation app. And if you don't have a Dog Nation app on your smartphone device, you absolutely should. It's a great way to get all the latest information on whatever's going on, whether it be recruiting and Jeff Santel, team stuff from Seth Emerson, Brandon Adams always doing this podcast, and Dog Nation Daily, and me. So for all those guys I just mentioned, thanks for hanging out with me for a little while here at my house. Plenty to read online, and I will be checking for your comments and questions and getting back to them just as quick as I can. Thanks for hanging out, y'all. Good night.